In the 2011 and 2012 NBA season, something magical happened in the NBA. Linsanity happened. Jeremy Lin rose to stardom, and that's what I will be talking about today, the hype and reactions behind it. Jeremy Lin, 6'3", pro basketball player in the NBA, born and raised in Palo Alto, California, and is a first-generation son of Taiwanese immigrants. So what exactly was Linsanity? Jeremy Lin, he was picked off of waivers by the New York Knicks in December 2011 because of several injury woes. He didn't really do much in the first month, but he finally got an opportunity to play quality minutes on February 4th, 2012, and he netted 25 points along with 7 assists and 5 rebounds. It really just came out of nowhere. In the next 7-game stretch, he averaged what some could argue superstar numbers while leading the Knicks to a 7-game winning streak. He brought back life to New York sports. Lin continued to have success, although his averages dropped in increments over a span of games as he began to struggle. There also came a coaching change at that time, and to top it off, Lin suffered an injury late March in his left knee and opted to sit the remainder of the season to recover. And that's about the time when the Linsanity hype died. It lasted a total of 26 games, but during Linsanity there was so much excitement generated in the basketball and the social world. However, aside from the clever puns, Linsanity received a multitude of racist and controversial comments from the media in the world. An ESPN writer titled an article "Chink in the Armor," and he was fired for that. An anchor mentioned that slur and received a 30-day suspension. Then on February 16th, 2012, Madison Square Garden, the arena of the Knicks, aired a Jeremy Lin fortune cookie sign. The fortune said, "The Knicks' good fortune." Then Ben & Jerry's ice cream released the Taste of Linsanity flavor. Let's take a look at the flavor description. Vanilla, frozen yogurt, lychee, honey swirls, and fortune cookie pieces. Then Mayweather, maybe one of the best boxers in the era, wrote this tweet. "Jeremy Lin is a good player, but all the hype is because he's Asian. Black people do what he does every night and don't get the same praise." This might not have been what the public wanted to hear because it sounds like an attack towards Asians, but I think he's onto something. Which brings me to my next point. Why did Linsanity generate so much hype? Why were so many tweets, media coverages, and representations deemed as racist or inappropriate? I believe looking at Linsanity through a critical and historical lens can provide some of those answers. Let's look at immigration of Asians into the United States, particularly the Chinese. Chinese immigration started in the mid-1800s. They immigrated primarily to obtain wealth. They worked on the railroad and mills, factories, industries, and as farmers. They were hard workers. US citizens pretty much saw them as cheap temporary units of labor. But they also remembered how Genghis Khan conquered a majority of Europe, and that instilled fear into the Western world. There was also Yellow Peril, in which Americans feared the Chinese for possible invasion and competition for jobs. So the Page Act of 1875 was implemented, and this prevented immigration of anyone who the US decided was lewd, undesirable, and immoral. The main purpose was to prohibit women from entering the US. They wanted to construct the image that Chinese or Asian men were asexual and non-masculine. They denied the ability for those men to start families. Then there were anti-miscegenation laws raised in 1907 by Congress that stated that women attain the nationality of their husband regardless of her own nationality. Americans would not want to marry the Chinese because they would risk losing their citizenship. In all, the result labeled Asian men as hypomasculine, sexually deviant, rapists, and eunuchs. These stereotypes still exist in modern-day American culture, especially of Asian men not being masculine. Then came fictional characters like Charlie Chan, who was Chinese. He was depicted as the evil enemy of the white man. Another was Dr. Fu Manchu, who wanted to take over the West. He was depicted as feminine, you can see through his long fingernails and dress-like attire. Now we have a glimpse of how Asian stereotypes and racism began. Because of that, we shouldn't be too surprised at some of the things that occurred during Linsanity, or generally in today's culture. Slurs like chink and foods like fortune cookies have been part of American culture since the Chinese immigrated into the US. A term that can be used to explain this is institutional racism. Institutional racism is racism that comes from established laws, customs, and practices that systematically produce racial inequalities in society. We understand from history why Asians are labeled as non-masculine. They're labeled as hardworking and intelligent. So what's the Lin connection? Jeremy Lin has always been a phenomenal basketball player. In high school, he was first-team All-State, Northern California Division II Player of the Year. He also won the Division State II title his senior year. However, he never received any offers or scholarships to play college ball, likely due to the fact that he was Asian. Then went on to college at Harvard, where he was guaranteed a spot on the team and ended up setting Ivy League records. Him going to Harvard is pretty much the epitome of the Asian stereotype. Lin is smart, he's hardworking, determined, is fighting against all odds. But the difference is that he is also a great basketball player, which comes with a hyper-masculine identity. An Asian that is smart and plays high-level basketball does not make sense in our culture. So now that we know about institutional racism and the brief historical viewpoint on Asians in American culture, we can see that issues and problems with racial attitudes have existed a long time. The media and society's reaction to Linsanity just reinforces that our culture has an established attitude towards different races, in this case, for Asians. Of course, on the other hand, we see how this also illustrates white privilege. The articles I wrote about Linsanity focused on the racism aspect, but failed to consider the sociological and historical perspectives. In summary, Linsanity highlighted the lasting and lingering stereotypes and racial attitudes towards Asians and Asian Americans. We see that Linsanity has challenged the stereotypes and racism too. With all the references to racist comments, it has revealed and brought to light patterns of inequality.